I've watched women leave good men. Not perfect men, good ones. Men who loved them, men who were faithful, men who showed up consistently and meant every word they said. And the women didn't leave because those things weren't real. They left because somewhere along the way, something else stopped being real. Something harder to name than loyalty or effort or intention. Something that had been quietly slipping for months, maybe longer, before either of them noticed it was gone. That's what I want to talk about today. Not the dramatic endings, the cheating, the lying, the explosive fallouts that make the reason obvious. I want to talk about the quieter ones, the ones where she just drifts, where the relationship didn't fail loudly, it just slowly lost its hold on her until one day she realized she'd already left emotionally long before she said anything out loud. Because if you understand what actually keeps a woman anchored, not just present, but genuinely, deeply wanting to be there, then you understand something that most relationship advice completely misses. And that understanding starts not with what you should do, but with what she actually feels. First, what she actually means when she says she feels distant. Now, when a woman tells a man she feels distant or disconnected or that something feels off, but she can't quite explain it, most men hear that as a problem to be solved. They go into fix-it mode. They plan a date. They ask more questions. They try to identify the specific thing that went wrong so they can correct it. And the effort is genuine. It really is. But it almost always misses the point, because what she's describing isn't usually a specific incident or a particular failure. It's an accumulation, a slow build of something she's been feeling for longer than she's been saying. What she's actually trying to communicate in that moment, even if she doesn't have the language for it herself, is that the feeling she used to get around him has changed. Not that he did something wrong necessarily, but that something in the dynamic between them has flattened out in a way that's hard to pinpoint, but impossible to ignore once she's noticed it. She still cares about him. She might still love him. But something that used to feel alive in the relationship has gone quiet. And she feels that absence every single day, even when everything on the surface looks completely fine. This is the part that makes these conversations so difficult. She isn't always lying when she says she doesn't know what's wrong. Sometimes she genuinely doesn't, because what she's feeling isn't a thought she can trace back to a cause. It's a feeling that arrived gradually and settled in without a clear origin story. And by the time she's putting it into words, it's usually been living in her body for quite a while already. Understanding that is the first step. Not to fix it immediately, but to stop looking for the single thing that broke it, because in most cases, there wasn't one. There was just a slow drift that nobody caught in time. 2, the comfort trap. There's a version of comfort in a relationship that is genuinely beautiful, the kind that comes from real trust, real history, real safety, built between two people over time. That kind of comfort is something worth protecting. But there's another kind that quietly does damage, and it's the kind that sets in when a man stops bringing any tension to the dynamic at all. When everything becomes predictable. When she always knows exactly what he'll say, exactly how he'll respond, exactly where she stands at every moment without ever having to wonder even slightly. And here's the thing that's uncomfortable to admit. A small amount of uncertainty is not the enemy of love. It's actually part of what keeps love feeling alive. Not manufactured drama, not deliberate coldness, but the natural tension that exists when two people are genuinely their own separate people with their own inner lives that don't completely belong to each other. When that tension collapses entirely, when he becomes completely available in every direction at all times, something in her attraction starts to quietly switch off. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens the way water erodes stone, slowly, consistently, invisibly, until the shape of things has changed completely. She starts to feel less like she's with a man she chose, and more like she's managing a situation she's responsible for. His emotional world starts to feel like something she has to tend to rather than something that draws her in. And that shift, from being drawn to him to feeling responsible for him, is one of the most reliable signs that the comfort trap has already closed. What she needs to feel, even in a committed and loving relationship, is that he has a life that exists independently of her approval, that his sense of self doesn't rise and fall based on her mood, that she is chosen by him because he genuinely wants her there, not because he needs her there to feel okay. The moment that distinction blurs, comfort stops feeling like safety and starts feeling like weight. 3. What polarity actually means to her. I want to reframe this word, polarity, because it gets thrown around in dating spaces in ways that make it sound like a manipulation strategy, like it's about keeping her guessing or strategically withholding affection to manufacture attraction. That's not what I'm talking about, and honestly, that approach tends to backfire badly with any woman who has a secure enough sense of herself to recognize it. What I'm actually talking about is something much simpler and much more real than that. Polarity, from her side of the experience, is the feeling that he is distinctly himself, that there is a man in front of her with edges to him, opinions he actually holds, directions he's genuinely moving in, a sense of self that doesn't reshape itself around her preferences every time she shifts. It's the feeling that she is with someone, not just accompanied by someone. And that feeling is either present in a relationship or it isn't. And she knows which one it is, even when she can't articulate why. A man who has his own close friendships, his own pursuits, his own quiet non-negotiables about how he lives, and who loves her fully within that structure rather than instead of it, creates a dynamic where she is always slightly aware that she is a choice he keeps making. Not because he reminds her of it, but because she can feel it in how he moves through life. That awareness keeps something alive in her that pure comfort extinguishes. Think about a couple where the man, without any agenda, simply maintains his Friday nights with his close friends, no matter how settled the relationship gets. He's present with her, loving, fully invested, but that part of his life remains his. She might occasionally tease him about it, but underneath that, she respects it. More than that, it quietly reassures her that he's a man with a life, not a man whose entire world collapsed into her. That reassurance keeps her attracted in a way she probably never directly connects to those Friday nights. But it's connected. 4. The slow fade nobody talks about. This is the section I most want men to actually sit with, because I think it describes what happens in the majority of relationships that end without a dramatic reason. The slow fade. The gradual accumulation of small shifts that individually seem meaningless, but collectively change everything about how she experiences being with him. It usually starts with the way he engages with her. Early in the relationship, he was curious about her, genuinely curious, not performatively. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He had opinions about things and shared them without checking her face first to see if she'd approve. He pushed back occasionally when he disagreed. There was a quality of genuine engagement that made her feel like she was actually being seen by someone with a real perspective of his own. And then, slowly, that starts to soften. He becomes more agreeable, more accommodating. He stops pushing back because he doesn't want conflict. He starts organizing his choices around what he thinks she wants rather than what he actually thinks. He checks in more, needs more reassurance, becomes more emotionally dependent on her responses to feel settled in himself. Each individual adjustment seems considerate in isolation. Cumulatively, they produce a man she no longer fully recognizes as the one she fell for. Picture a couple 18 months into a relationship. Early on, he had a strong opinion about how he spent his weekends, and she loved that about him. It made her feel like she was entering his world when they spent time together. But gradually, he stopped making plans independently and started waiting to see what she wants to do first. She mentions it once as a joke. "You never just decide anymore," and laughs it off. But she meant it. And the fact that he responds by immediately asking what she'd like to do that weekend, rather than just making a decision, proves her point in a way neither of them acknowledges out loud. That moment, small, almost invisible, is the slow fade in action. It accumulates, and eventually she looks at him and feels a loss she can't fully explain. 5. The moment. She decides. There's a specific internal moment that happens inside a woman before she ever says a word about leaving, and most men never know it occurred until long after it already has. It's not a dramatic realization. It doesn't arrive during a fight or after a specific incident, although sometimes those things can accelerate it. It's quieter than that. It's the moment when she stops seeing a future with him as something she's actively building toward and starts experiencing it as something she's just passively moving through. It usually happens in an ordinary moment, not a crisis. She might be sitting across from him at dinner or lying next to him at night, and something in her just settles into a kind of stillness that isn't peace. It's resignation. Like a door closing somewhere inside her that she didn't consciously decide to close. She might not even fully register it in the moment. But something shifted, and on some level she knows it. What gets a woman to that moment is almost never one thing. It's the accumulation of everything we've already talked about. The flattened tension, the slow disappearance of the man she was originally drawn to, the growing sense that she is more caretaker than partner in the dynamic. And at some point, the emotional math just stops adding up in a way that makes staying feel like the obvious choice. What pulls her back from that edge, when something does, is almost always a moment of genuine re-encounter with the man she first chose. Not grand gestures, not apologies or promises, just a moment where he shows up as himself, fully, without performance or anxiety. And she remembers why she wanted to be near him in the first place. That memory has more power than most men give it credit for. But it requires him to actually be that man again, not just remind her that he used to be. The window doesn't stay open indefinitely. But it does stay open longer than most men realize, if they know what to do with it. 6. What makes her choose to stay? After everything I've described, the drift, the comfort trap, the slow fade, the moment she quietly decides, I want to end on what actually works. Not as a strategy, but as a genuine understanding of what keeps a woman not just present in a relationship, but fully, willingly, enthusiastically there. What makes her want to stay is the felt sense that the man she's with is continuously, quietly becoming. That he hasn't arrived at a fixed point and stopped moving. That there is still more of him to know, still directions he's heading in, still a version of himself he's working toward that she gets to witness and be part of. A man in that kind of motion is genuinely compelling to be around long term, because she never fully loses the feeling of being drawn towards something. She also stays when she feels chosen, not needed. There is an enormous difference between a man who stays because he can't imagine functioning without her, and a man who stays because she is genuinely the person he wants to build his life with. The first feels like responsibility. The second feels like love. Women know the difference in their bones, even when both men are saying exactly the same words. And she stays when the relationship has enough space in it that she can feel herself inside it. When she isn't managing his emotions at the expense of her own. When he brings enough of himself to the dynamic that she isn't doing all the emotional heavy lifting alone. When being with him adds something to her life rather than quietly draining it. None of this requires perfection. It doesn't require a man to never struggle or never need support or never have hard seasons. What it requires is that underneath all of that, the core of who he is remains present, grounded, and genuinely directed. That's what she's looking for. That's what she stays for. I want to be honest about something before we close. None of what I've talked about today is about keeping a woman through strategy or calculated distance, or making her feel uncertain about where she stands. That approach might produce short-term results, but it doesn't produce the thing most men actually want, which is a woman who is genuinely, freely choosing to be there. What I've been describing is simpler and harder than any strategy. It's the work of remaining a full person inside a relationship, of not slowly dissolving into it, of continuing to grow, to move, to hold your own shape, even as you build something with someone else. That's not selfishness. That's actually what love requires of you if you want it to last. The men who keep the women worth keeping aren't the ones who play it cool or manufacture mystery. They're the ones who never stopped being someone worth staying for. That's the whole thing. That's all it ever was.